We mentioned the benefits of microservices. Let's also talk about drawbacks of microservices. So microservice-based systems are more complex to design and build because you will need to design more components. You will have to make sure that their boundaries are well designed, the way they communicate is efficient, and also you need to understand how you are going to monitor this system when it works. And also you need to make changes in how teams are formed, how teams work, and also how the entire organization works. Because as we said before, every microservice is maintained and managed by one team, or every few microservices are owned by one team, and therefore the way you form your teams will be different. So you will end up having more teams normally, and you will obviously need to manage more teams. Because you have more teams, obviously you will need more people because every team member has to be specialized in a couple of microservices. And then teams will have to be very efficient in communication because you have to make sure that the teams adhere to the reference architecture, and if they want to deploy, the other teams also know what's going on. So they need to be in sync. And often microservices-based applications and systems are more expensive to build because you are obviously dealing with more people, more complex CI/CD, and also some components that you may need in a microservice-based application. One example is the event streaming that we talked about in the previous lecture. They don't exist and they are not needed in a monolithic application, so that extra infrastructure will incur more cost. A big downside of microservices is that diagnosing and debugging problems becomes more difficult, especially if you have a production problem where there is no source code. It's a lot harder to pinpoint the root cause of problems when you use microservices, because in a large application you can, for example, get a copy of database, run it locally, trace the code. In microservices, you don't know which service is causing the problem, or maybe some microservices together are causing a problem. So it's harder to pinpoint the root cause of production problems. And likewise, testing becomes more challenging because when you are building a system, for example, from scratch, some services may be ready, some may not be ready. And also, if you want to report bugs and chase the bugs, you will need to deal with more teams. So the bottom line is that microservices architecture isn't always fit for purpose. It's not always the ideal solution. It's not one size fit all solution. You have to compare the pros and cons, or benefits and drawbacks, and then based on that, decide if this architectural style suits your application, your project, and your company.